So, in arriving at Nirbija Yoga, or um, so in everyday moments of, well, if you're not being mindful, it is easy to be in hatha states where I'm a subject dealing with objects, yeah, dealing with circumstances, events, contexts, objects, subjects, different people, so objects and subjects. And when I'm mindful, they, in some way, when I'm coming into Nirbija Yoga, what that means is you're coming into a state of Advaita, wherein there is no, wherein the object and the subject may be appreciated as part of one continuum, for the word of it. But I wouldn't really say it that way, not just to be deviant, but right now it seems like a forced word, continuum. And I know particularly one person who is very deliberating on that, and so I may be under the influence. But what I intend to say is where the object and the subject are part of one matrix, one fabric, and have co-relevance, co-dynamics, so to speak, and hence is in a some people have called it Maya, as in an illusion, as though it is all an illusion. But I do not agree with it, because illusion is also a lack of perspective, and is also from past-based interpretations affecting our ability to see things for what they are. So illusion, so there is the fact of me speaking into the camera, so it's not an illusion. The illusion is that which is coming and going, probably in terms of morasses, giving me stories, ideas in some way about what is that I'm saying, what is that I'm speaking to, and how that has influence over what I say next, maybe, or not, to the extent that I'm aware of the influences on what I intend to say, and the direction changes in vectors from the influences. So then that would be what would be speaking from internal stimulus, so to speak. It is not really internal stimulus, it's more unawareness of or not being aware of what influenced what I'm saying next. When you are aware of what gave rise to a change in direction, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, or there's a change in the movement of a particle based on what obstructs the change of it. Second law of particle physics, kinetics. You got to get those lines right. But so there is something that I want to say, and then when there is a change, I may or may not be aware of what gave rise to the change in the direction of that, in the thought vector. And hence, I may be looking London, going Tokyo. So I want to say something, but I'm saying something else. So, and those may be, so I may or may not be able to correct, okay, it's going this way, I want to go this way, depending on who's in the environment, or it could be several other factors. But it also could be the different levels of, so to speak, violence in the environment that does not allow for clarification, So there could be that. So then it's about, so when you're not making something happen, it's not changing, you're not hacking reality such that something else is happening, because that would be another level of violence too. Because you're fixing something, and that's not how you solve anything. That is not non-violence. That is again diverting, delaying even problem which could come up somewhere else because it didn't find expression here. But it's something that is there within but not healed. Now the practice of Nirbij Yoga, come to the practice of Nirbij Yoga when you come to a state of Advaita, and it is not how we understand Advaita, it is not just non-duality, but it's actually coming to, well, in terms of spiritual terminology, vocabulary, you may say khuda, that which gives a khudi, me-ness, khud, that which gives rise to me, my being. It's not just being. Being is more a word once removed from what I'm saying. Khud, I-ness, that gives my existence a validity, a reason to be. That is not what I'm calling as Advaita. That is one aspect of it, where you are in sync. It's not just, it's more like the microcosm being in sync with the macrocosm, or the small I and the big I. You can call it as God, where you're in sync with Godness. Well, it's not Godness, God. But that is not sufficient, because I don't know if this is the right word, but I'm thinking the word khudai. What that means is that which is possible from godliness. What I mean by that is where there is love, that's when there is an expression of something profound, which gives a space, a holding for all that there is. So we're not talking in terms of a God-loving world. It's not about loving God. It's about God loving the world, where otherwise God is in its own platitude, yeah, gaudy, but not quite loving the world, yeah. So there is some have called it as a God particle and all of that, but it's a platitude. So probably there is some reference to what is Advaita, as in Goditude. And hence some people may be even thinking of it as spiritual enlightenment, enlightenment as in, now aware of the godliness. But you're not really having it together. It's more like, now done. So you might as well be dead now, but that is not why you're alive. So until you kind of find an expression true love for being in existence. It's again a state, some platitude that you have pedestal yourself. And hence, all of that learning, wisdom, what is it, of what use is it? It's more like a knowledge, but then of what use is it? So you can ask, oh, what use is all of this living and stuff is only except to get that knowledge? Well, that is where Meristem Intelligence comes in place, because you might think, this is a great thing, but then you will have to live several more lifetimes again before you could realize that is not the end thing. Yeah, it's about the opportunity from being alive and what is possible. It's not about self-realization that we're born for. It is in making what there is better by the fact of us having a human body. So it may seem like, so what I'm talking about here is these may be contexts, intellectual precepts which may not have gone beyond, discussions may not have gone beyond, and hence we may be placing the self-realizations or even self-actualization. I think that's also quite not a complete idea. Self-actualization may be seeming like, okay, now the self has formed, and now actualizing, creating something out of it. There have been references to people write a book, and that is where there is a something definite formed from people having realized their self, and then they leave a book, and that's the usual pattern. Yeah, this is how things happen. But so that's where I'm saying there is a limit, there's a incompleteness to the idea of self-actualization, which is also maybe some of the reasons why we go up to there and then we're not really going forward. We seem to be doing Kala Chakras, which is where the evolution of being human, being humane, may not have really happened, because we are hitting a certain limit to what we have seen as possible or what several people have done, and hence this is the upper limit, kind of. And hence haven't even thought about going beyond it, or that there could be something beyond it. So that also needs to be recorded just for point of reference.